There's a book on a shelf. It's required for your class. The professor said so. The syllabus says so. There's no getting around it. The book costs $300. It came out last year. There's a new edition this year. In the U.S., new college textbook prices rose 82% in a single decade, roughly 3 times the rate of general inflation over the same period. Not medical equipment, not rent, textbooks. Over the same decade, tuition and fees went up 89%. Textbooks kept pace. Somehow, that's the part nobody talks about. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how that happened, who designed it, and why nobody stopped it. The reason is almost impressive.
Here's what's actually at stake. According to a survey of over 2,000 U.S. college students, 65% said they skipped buying a required textbook because it cost too much, and 94% of those students said they were worried it would hurt their grade. They knew the risk. They couldn't cover the cost. The same survey found that nearly half of students, 48%, said textbook costs changed how many classes they took or which ones. Not which brand of coffee they bought, which education they got. By the end of this video, you'll understand the exact mechanism and why disclosure, legislation, and good intentions haven't touched it.
Most markets have a correcting force. If one company charges too much, a competitor charges less. You pick the cheaper option, prices come down. That's the whole system. The textbook market doesn't have that. The GAO, the U.S. government's own auditors, documented the reason in 2005 and again in 2013. The textbook market is different from other markets because while students are the buyers, faculty are the ones who select which textbooks students must use, which limits students' ability to cut costs. The person who picks the book doesn't pay for it. The person who pays doesn't get a pick. A handful of publishers, Pearson, Cengage, and McGraw-Hill among them, control the majority of the U.S. higher education textbook market, so there isn't much competitive pressure from the supply side either. The question isn't why textbooks are expensive, it's why that structure was built, how it stays standing, and what happens when someone tries to leave.
Here's how the system actually works. Publishers don't sell to students, they sell to professors. Their sales reps meet with faculty, bring free sample copies, and pitch the new edition. The professor picks the book, it goes on the syllabus. The students find out on day 1 of the semester. Think about that mechanic for a second. Imagine your car mechanic chose which brand of gas you had to buy, and if you used a different brand, the car wouldn't start. And the gas company released a new formula every couple of years that made the old one incompatible. That's roughly this market. The person deciding what you must purchase doesn't pay the bill. The revision cycle is 3 to 4 years in most fields, and the GAO found that short revision cycles limit students' ability to cut costs by buying used copies because the new edition changes problem numbers and page references. Your assignment is on page 247. The used copy has different content on page 247. You buy new.
According to a MassPIRG survey of professors in Massachusetts, 71% said new editions of textbooks in their field are justified only sometimes or rarely, and new editions run on average 12% more expensive than the previous one. Then there's the access code, a single-use serial number bundled into the book's packaging that unlocks the online homework system. Once registered, it's done. A student who buys the previous owner's used copy cannot use that code. They can try to buy a standalone code. It costs close to what the new book costs. And even if you find a used copy, campus bookstores typically price it at around 75% of the new book price. You've found the discount. The discount is 25% off a price someone else invented.
Here's the part where things get genuinely funny. Not funny like a joke. Funny like you can watch every piece of the system fail in real time. The U.S. government audited this market in 2005. The GAO published a report. It named the mechanism, the professor as middleman who breaks price competition. Congress read it. In 2008, Congress passed a law, the Higher Education Opportunity Act, requiring publishers to disclose textbook prices before professors assign them and to list prices in course registration systems. Reasonable. Sensible. The GAO studied the outcome in 2013 and concluded that greater transparency does not make textbooks less expensive, because the affordability problem comes from market forces, not from a lack of information. Congress disclosed everything. Prices kept rising.
Meanwhile, the publishers were doing fine. McGraw-Hill's higher education segment generated nearly $300 million in adjusted earnings in a single fiscal year. That's just the textbook division. That's just one publisher. By fiscal 2024, McGraw-Hill's full company adjusted earnings margin reached 36%, with digital products making up 90% of its U.S. higher education billings. They went digital. The prices went with them. And here's what the sales meetings looked like. According to a PIRG survey of Massachusetts professors, 77% said sales representatives rarely or never volunteered the textbook's price during a pitch. Even when a professor directly asked for the price, only 38% of reps would always give it. A person selling a $300 book, asked what it costs, declines to say, in more than half the cases. The GAO also found that publishers provide instructors with free sample materials, desk copies of the book the instructor will require students to buy. The professor gets the $300 book for free. The student doesn't get a say in whether they want it.
Put it in one line. In the U.S., textbook prices rose 82% in a single decade. The price of everything else rose 28%, not because content changed 3 times as fast, because the structure let them.
It gets a layer worse. Publishers found a way to bypass even the used book hunt entirely. It's called inclusive access or equitable access, depending on the branding. The idea is that your university pre-negotiates a bulk deal with a publisher and bundles the digital textbook cost into your enrollment fees automatically. U.S. senators wrote to the Department of Education in April 2024 about programs that allow universities to automatically charge a student's federal financial aid for textbooks without the student's consent, and noted that the opt-out process is often difficult to navigate and lacks transparency. The charge hits before the semester starts. You opted in by enrolling.
In theory, this cuts costs through bulk pricing. In practice, you went from maybe not buying the book to definitely buying the book automatically from the one publisher your school made a deal with. And if you thought going digital would help, publishers price digital access codes at near-print levels, and the digital version expires at semester's end with no resale value at all. The used book market at least gave you something back. The digital version just ends. There is a free alternative. It's been there the whole time. OpenStax, a nonprofit at Rice University, publishes peer-reviewed textbooks that are free online. As of 2025, it had saved U.S. students a cumulative nearly $3.4 billion in textbook costs. Its books are in use at 72% of U.S. colleges. Most schools already have it. The market still charges $300.
So, a few things you might believe about this. Transparency would fix it. Congress tried that in 2008. The GAO checked back in 2013 and found that knowing the price of a book you're required to buy doesn't change the price. Transparency is not negotiating power. New editions must have new content. According to research into accounting textbooks, accounting professors who teach subdisciplines that change slowly, like cost accounting, actually prefer longer revision cycles. Publishers release new editions anyway. For subjects where the math hasn't changed, they moved the paragraphs. Digital is cheaper. The access code expires at the end of semester. No resale, no library copy, no borrowing. You're paying full price for something that evaporates.
To be fair, publishers do invest real money. The GAO itself noted in 2005 that investment in supplemental products, like online tools, was a real driver of price increases, development costs that are genuine, not invented. The absurdity isn't that textbooks cost nothing to make, it's that a buyer with no choice gets handed the full bill with no competitive check. The market structure is the problem. One U.S. government report said so in 2005, another in 2013. Congress passed a disclosure law. Prices kept rising.
The mechanism didn't change because the mechanism is working correctly, just not for you. And one more publisher filed for bankruptcy with $5.8 billion in debt, restructured, shed $4 billion of it, emerged 9 months later, and got right back to selling the same textbooks at the same prices. Incredible, honestly, from a purely structural standpoint.
If this made you think about the other things you pay full price for because there's no other option, diamonds have the same energy. Ordinary rock, one marketing campaign from 1947. Somehow it costs more than your car and you're expected to propose with it. Same structure, different product. That one's already up.